So if you aren't aware, American Idiot is a concept album, or an album with an overarching story throughout its runtime told using music. It's very dangerous territory for any band due to the many reasons, such as loss of interest, being too long, too tedious, or just being a terrible experience in general, and it is made even more complex with Green Day throwing their hat in the ring. This is because the type of music on a concept album usually is complex in nature, and it's why most concept albums are done by prog rock bands, which makes this album highly ironic if you understand the nuances and history of punk rock. The origins of punk rock in the 70s began as a movement that was a reaction to all the prog rock groups of that era writing overtly long and needlessly complex material, and thus a DIY aesthetic was created utilizing 3 power chords played at speed and typically under 3 minutes in length. In fact, one of the godfathers of the punk rock movement, Johnny Rotten from the Sex Pistols fame, met Sid Vicious, who said that he liked his shirt, which was a Pink Floyd t-shirt with the handwritten words "I hate" written above them. So with Green Day creating a concept album in a similar vein, of course, to what Pink Floyd had done many decades ago, it was met with apprehension, understandably, from many old school fans and those in the scene. And of course they hated the premise, but I have another opinion, or rather angle, to pitch regarding this misconception. In fact, it was the most punk rock moment of the era instead by creating this album, and I'll tell you why later. So let's find out more about this album, which nearly didn't exist. To the first and most important note is that this album almost never existed, and it was only due to fate that it was made. At this stage it's a fairly common fact, but just in case that you weren't aware, Green Day's 7th record was not meant to sound like this album currently is. In fact, this is technically the band's 8th album, as their original master tapes for the near-finished 7th record were stolen, or apparently so, and have become one of the most famous pieces of lost media ever that has never seen the light of day. Now, the band could have at this stage re-recorded their parts again, but instead took this as an omen and decided instead to start from scratch and record a whole new album. There have certainly been speculations made about the lost tapes and what happened to them. The first is that Billy Joe was of course unhappy with the sessions and destroyed the master tapes secretly. The second was that the tapes were being mislabeled and are currently sitting in some kind of archive somewhere. The third was of course that they were stolen, and to be honest, this is probably what most likely happened, and who knows in the mysterious world of what-if scenarios. After all, this is why they call this lost media, but it does make for an interesting story. The fact of the matter is, the band threw their hands up and said, "We'll do it live! Fuck it!" Well, something to that effect. The band would begin re-recording in March of 2003 in Studio 880 and would finish in April of 2004, some 11 months after, and it was just in time for a September release in that year. Well, we have a lot of singles to cover and so little attention for you to span, so let's jump straight into this, everyone. Well, if you're going to go big, then go huge, and oh boy, did this band just take that advice and smash this song out of the park. I'm not sure what it is with songs that hold political ideologies, but they are always shot in some empty-looking warehouse, aren't they, for their video clips? I mean, here is the band in their video clip with the flag getting sprayed, and fast forward some 15 years to Childish Gambino in a warehouse, spraying a choir in a different way. If it wasn't obvious by now, then yes, this song refers to the United States of America, and was very reflective of it at that point in time. A point in time which speaks about a nation controlled by the new biased media, a song that is part of the redneck agenda. In an interview with VH1, they asked if anyone who voted for George W. Bush was an American idiot, to which Billy Joe said in a strong reply, "No, just some misinformed idiot." And if you are tuning into this review without knowing anything about Green Day, and possibly in this day and age of Trump in power, then no, Billy Joe is no time traveler. It's just that history likes to repeat itself often. Bizarrely, this song would also land the band with a lawsuit, but not because of anything politically motivated. Instead, a grocery clerk named Paul McPike sued the band, stating that he had written not only the song American Idiot, but also most of the other songs from the album back in 1992, and his main source of evidence was a 2-page complaint to the US District Court, mostly stating that the lyrics from this album didn't match those that were printed in the liner notes. The judge requested more evidence to back his claim, and they have heard nothing back, so the case was of course dismissed. I guess there's certainly lives up to the title of the track and the American belief of "in lawsuits we trust." Speaking of reworked versions of the song, this tune was revised for a funeral version in the Simpsons movie, which features Green Day performing at the beginning of that film on top of a barge on the toxic lake of Springfield before being sunk.
Gentlemen, it's been an honor playing with you tonight.
This was the last time The Simpsons wrote an amazing episode. Fight me. Also, let's see The Simpsons predict this one. I'll wait.
I thought they touched on a vital issue.
I beg to differ.
American Idiot would also be parodied by Weird Al Yankovic in his tune Canadian Idiot for his 2006 album Straight Outta Linwood.
Well, maple syrup and snow's what they export.
A strange piece of trivia here, but in an interesting list compiled by the South China University of Technology, they considered American Idiot to be the most dangerous song to listen to while driving your car, with Miley Cyrus's Party in the USA and The Killer's Mr. Brightside coming in at second and third. They state the dangers of this song is because of the high beats per minute, of which this song racks up a mighty 189.
Isn't that cute? But it's wrong!
Now I get it, China doesn't have Google, but surely they know what the fuck thrash metal is, and I'm guessing that they could get their hands on many other songs with a faster tempo. After all, I've been involved in more dangerous mosh pits than car crashes to Green Day's American Idiot. Maybe the next time they perform some research into this field, they can do so with boots on the ground and from the mosh pit. Anyway, to nobody's surprise, this song continues its politically trended movements and the modern day and age, with Green Day dedicating this song to a certain someone in 2017 onwards during their campaign. In 2018, a campaign was set up in the United Kingdom to get this song back in the charts as a protest against Donald Trump's visits to the country, but it only managed to get to the 25th spot upon his visit, and I imagine that this trend will continue forward into the future as well.
At their last 250 rollover.
By the time this single was released, it was to some kind of twisted fate. After all, this song is about the loneliness and how the American dream can let you down. However, the band was soon becoming one of the most hotly anticipated acts of 2004 after their single American Idiot dropped, allowing them to continue their dream of being a successful band. The song is also tied to the track Holiday and is seamlessly edited on the album to coincide with the ending of this track, as the main protagonist and his storyline go hand in hand with the song on the prior tune. Originally, Boulevard of Broken Dreams was supposed to be highly influenced by the Beatles' song A Day in the Life, with canopies and circus music. Oh my gosh, am I glad they were talked out of doing this. I could never see them achieving such a sound while retaining some semblance of their punk roots. In the end, they were told, "You're a rock band, let's just do it with guitars." And Billy ended up playing the hardest and fastest chords he could, which were edited and slowed right down into this track. The video clip is also famous for showing the band walking down an empty desert, and it has been stated the band never left the soundstage during the entire shooting. And I kind of have to ask, did anyone actually believe that this was to be the case? Because looking at the video, it's obvious that the band never left and went on location to record any of these videos. An interesting fact, but Boulevard of Broken Dreams is also a famous painting by Gottfried Helnwein, which I probably mispronounced really badly, which depicts Marilyn Monroe, Humphrey Bogart, James Dean, and Elvis Presley hanging out in a bar, in a parody of the painting Nighthawks by Edward Hopper. This artwork was also the inspiration for the cover art on The Blue Jukebox by Chris Rea, which was also released in this year, and is perhaps the weirdest 6 degrees of separation I can make between the punk rock icons to a jazz fusion blues guitarist. But I'll take it anyway. While we're on the topic of music, Boulevard of Broken Dreams was also the name of a different song that was written in 1934 by Al Dubin for the movie Moulin Rouge.
Street of sorrow, the boulevard of broken dreams.
Anyway, the band's performance of this song at the Grammys in 2006 won them an award for the year, which is odd because in the previous year, American Idiot was selected for Best Rock Album, but lost to Ray Charles unsurprisingly, as Ray Charles took out the win with his posthumous release, Genius Loves Company. I guess he didn't see that happening. Wow, that joke works on so many levels. Hey, how does that work anyway in regards to the Grammy? I mean, you're talking about an album that came out 1 or 2 years prior with these records, and then they actually win these awards after the fact? Who cares anyway?
Here.
Wow, an award statue! Oh, it's a Grammy. Hey, don't throw your garbage down here.
2004 was a very weird time for punk rock, and that was because of the tumultuous political scene of the era. We had George Bush Jr. as a president, and we were fighting a war due to what felt like oil money. But that was under the guise of course, weapons of mass destruction, which we knew were bullshit for the day anyway. It felt like George Bush wanted to do what his father couldn't, and that was to defeat Saddam Hussein in the Gulf War Part 2. This time, there will be blood.
Any outlaw regime that has ties to terrorist groups and seeks or possesses weapons of mass destruction is a grave danger to the civilized world and will be confronted.
Lucky it was a short affair. I wouldn't want this to last a few decades, right? Regardless of political ideologies. I only bring this up because it was ripe for certain punk bands to start their crusades of rock against Bush, with the likes of NoFX leading the charge, and of course many other contemporary acts joining the flurry, with people like Rise Against or Pennywise. And Holiday was a song that isn't too different, as it is about the greed of the American government profiteering from thousands of dead Americans and Iraqis. After all, that's where we get the lyric, "Can I get another amen? There's a flag wrapped around a score of men" from. The lyrics were a reflection of Armstrong's views in a post 9/11 world and the scene of that time. To quote him here, "It was like we were looking at our generation's Vietnam. I wrote that about how scary it was watching cable news, watching US tanks rolling into the city to destroy things. It was the first time I really felt a big divide in our country." I wonder if it's changed from then to now. The song often gets picked as an anti-American tune, however this song is instead about anti-war, and it doesn't entirely sway to one side of the politics or the other. In fact, it takes digs at both sides, in particular with the line, "Hear the drum pounding out of time, another protester has crossed the line to find the monies on the other side," alluding that a lot of people who protest in their youth sold out in their views later on in life for money, and there is a lot of truth to that. Billy Joe continued to state that the song is certainly a mishmash of all people with all these strong opinions who really can't agree, which leaves the protagonist of the song in the middle of this argument and sounds distinctly familiar 20 years later. History just loves repeating itself, I guess.
Summer has come and passed.
Yes, of course you can have all the memes that you want that would link to this song, and I guess it was always going to be the case. This tune ended up living on in the internet's mythos. I know a lot of people who said that this was the track that saw Green Day cross the line into emo rock territory. And considering their visuals of this era with the black suit shirts and ties along with these haircuts and lyrics, it's easy to understand why in this time they were swept up with that scene. After all, contemporary acts like AFI had come from a similar past of early punk to end up releasing a record in and about this era that was tempted into that pop punk and emo phase in 2003 with Sing the Sorrow, and perhaps American Idiot convinced them to jump in with 2 feet for their 2006 follow-up record, December Underground. And I was certainly one of those people who was convinced of this fact. I guess it's funny looking at this in hindsight, because this starting riff sounds fairly similar in structure to Good Riddance, Time of Your Life, released a few years prior. While this song certainly carries a lot of weight, it's Billy Joe who is relieved of such for the making of this song, as this song was written about his father who passed away in early September 1982, and it was the line that he said back in the day after locking himself in his room after the funeral. Yeah, those memes must make you feel like a big man, huh? No, I'm not going to hold it against you. Go ahead and do what you do. Interestingly, this video, along with many others, were directed by Samuel Bayer, who directed Nirvana's Smells Like Teen Spirit video. The video clip was not about Armstrong's father, but instead was supposed to show America's mood after the September 11 attacks. And in an interview given to MTV, Bayer went on to say that this video was hands down the greatest thing that I've ever done. Really? I get that you're trying to build up hype for your new video clips and of course Green Day's music, but did you have to really say this? You directed one of the most iconic video clips from the 90s, and while this is a prominent video clip, it certainly doesn't hold a goddamn candle to Nirvana. Sorry, but it's true. Also, the explosions in this video clip were real, and it seems rather dangerous as well, with one of the effects guys even having to dodge a rocket when it flew through some windows. Look out, Alec Baldwin, Green Day's on the way. This song's title is supposed to be taking cues from the main protagonist of the record and is split into 5 sections over a near 10-minute runtime. The intro certainly sounds very rockabilly and seems to take its cues from the Ramones blended with the Beach Boys. This is before the second part of the track kicks in, which is called City of the Damned, which describes a fight at a 7-Eleven parking lot. The pace kicks it up a notch for the part 3, which is called I Don't Care, where the character almost finds a semblance of peace with this state of mind before it lands in the last few sections, and part 5 tales from another broken home, where Jesus of Suburbia just gives up and leaves in the end. It's quite the epic journey throughout its runtime, which involves a lot of tempo changes and stylistic shifting within the tune on a roller coaster ride with our emotions. The song was somewhat of a rebirth for the band, and according to Armstrong himself, it broke every rule that people thought Green Day were supposed to be lyrically. This was mostly due to the lyrics containing events about his past life, building up to this by building into a future reality, of course. One of the prominent feelings that the band felt after recording this tune was that they had reached a point of no return, and the group couldn't believe that they had written such music. To be fair, I don't think even their fans could have imagined anything quite like this. It was advanced beyond years for a band who had written songs vastly differently only a few years prior. It's an extremely bombastic and flamboyant tune that almost feels like Elton John himself could have performed alongside the band for this very song, and you'd believe it if I said that it featured him. There was a fear now within the band after its release, whether they had done the right thing by writing this music, but after about 18 months of touring for this record, Billy would go on and say that it's amazing to play this song live and see the entire crowd singing along. It's just one of those songs that encapsulates the crowd's participation so well. In an album full of singles, there are more than the band's fair share of deep cuts, but I'm only going to limit this to 2 tracks, so here they are. St. Jimmy is a tune that reflects the chaos that is found on this song. It's a part of the record where the main character creates a duality of personalities with St. Jimmy, and he is the one who is tough with no vulnerability, but at the cost of losing what's her name, which ultimately causes this character to blow his brains out at the bay in a later section and return to his older self. The aggression is absolutely fast-paced for the song, as it hits one of the fastest paces the band has ever performed, and it is certainly one of the moments that shows the band weren't about to slow down on this album either. As for the second track, I'm sure fans would be divided choosing between She's a Rebel or What's Her Name. However, I'm going to pick Homecoming, as you could already see. This song shares a lot of similarities between their other near 10-minute magnum opus and is also separated into 5 parts. The first part of it reflects upon the death of St. Jimmy in the track mentioned earlier, and the main protagonist realizes that he has to leave him behind, citing that he is gaining nothing from him except for the knowledge that life is rather shite, despite the fact that St. Jimmy was a figment of his imagination. So in an open-ended way, this could be about mental health issues as well. The second part of this track is East 12th Street and tells the story of becoming conformant with life and getting a job. And while he would rather be back out in the filth of life with his friends, there is some realization that life requires money. In the end, he wants to get away from his feelings of being trapped, and this bleeds through on part 3 called Nobody Likes You, which shows how depressed he is, talking mostly about losing what's her name and awaiting her return. No wonder people would cite that Green Day had turned emo. Part 4 is called The Rock and Roll Girlfriend, which talks about a character named Tunny who the Jesus of Suburbia met on the streets and describes his life of paradise wherever he resides now, while the Jesus of Suburbia lives in his life in a dead-end job. The final part, where Coming Home, again is a little open-ended, as we're not exactly sure if the protagonist is happy or sad with the outcome at the end, and the band has gone on record to state that this was left open-ended on purpose. After all, the best stories are not as straightforward as we think, and are best left for the viewers to fill in the blanks and complete with their imaginations. It's not unusual for a band to show their evolution, however it is uncommon for it to be so drastic, and this album shows leaps and bounds of evolution compared to the rest of the band's discography. It's a concept record that showcases the band's songwriting abilities, which were very adept in many other fields. We knew that the group was on an extremely impressive pop-punk trio that were capable of writing catchy hooks with their power chords. We didn't know that the band was capable of writing the 21st century version of Tommy, and if you got that reference, then congratulations. You are probably in the perfect demographic for my channel and should definitely subscribe to me. Woohoo, shameless plug. And if you didn't understand that reference, then you have some googling to do after this episode, because that band is considered one of the OG punk rock groups. On the other hand, no wonder it spoke to volumes of people. It's as if the band understood the Bruce Springsteen motif of the working class American in a confusing time and applied it to their new age rock opera. It's kind of a no-brainer when you think about it as to why this album took off with such the success it had, and also no surprise that it pissed off so many fans in the process. Change is scary, but it is necessary, and like 10 years prior, the band found themselves at a very opportune time to write and record this iconic record. Looking back at it, I was not kind to this record at its reception back in the day. In fact, I was staunchly against the group and their changes, having been a new fan only from years prior thanks to their compilation record International Hits, and my disdain towards the emo rock movement and anything that resembled this genre around about this time. So when I saw that Green Day donning their all black t-shirts and jeans with those studded belts and red ties and black fingernails with slick haircuts and eyeliner, they were dead to me. However, it was impossible, of course, to escape every single song that the band released off this record, because it was everywhere, and thus, despite my best attempts, the songs remained tattooed in my brain. You know, it's kind of funny looking back at it that I hated the emo movement so much for so long, because at the time I considered Jimmy Eat World as one of the best bands of the early 2000s, and of course I loved Bleeding America and Clarity, but Clarity is considered one of the precursors to the emo rock movement. Oh well, I guess I'll just have to chalk this one up to being a young idiot who got caught up in peer pressure. After all, it's only in the last few years that I've come to realise there are some absolute bangers in this genre of music. I mean, early My Chemical Romance slaps hard. Anyway, I did return to this album after many years of pushing it to one side like a red-headed stepchild, only to embrace it now, once it has become cool to do so. You think I'm joking? I'm not gonna lie, that's pretty much exactly what I did, so you can judge me all you want. This is how I ended up on this path. It is regardless, however, and I think I have come to accept that this record as a superior effort with dope tracks amongst the mix. And I gotta say, I was secretly impressed with their live album Bullet and a Bible when it came out many years ago. Maybe I would have preferred this in a live setting, but then again, who knows. The album received mostly positive and critical acclaim from all outlets, with AllMusic given a score of 5 out of 5, Entertainment Weekly a B+, The Guardian given a 3 out of 5, Mojo given a 4 out of 5, NME given an 8 out of 10, Pitchfork given a 7.2 out of 10, Q given a 4 out of 5, Rolling Stones given a 3.5 out of 5, USA Today given a 3 out of 4, and The Village Idiot given it a C+. Over at Rachel Music, the record stands at a score of 3.35 out of 5 from over 22,000 reviews. As for me, this album will have a score of 13 million chilies on the spicy scale, with my favourite tracks being American Idiot, Jesus of Suburbia, Holiday, and Saint Jimmy. It should be no surprise that this album ended up becoming a musical on Broadway. It ticked all the boxes after all, and was especially helpful with it being a concert record. But the most important part was how beloved this record was amongst the fans, mostly the new ones. After all, this record would go 6 times platinum in America alone. It wasn't quite as successful as Dookie, but still freaking impressive, and it would see Green Day, of course, lead the charge once again on a new era for punk rock. It's not often that a band can become the poster child for a new generation in musical fans. Idols are so very rare, especially these days, and I feel that it is more impressive that the band not only managed to evolve that sound, but would also lead the charge for that new style of music as well. I know a lot of fans are going to comment below in regards to the band and how they changed their sound, but at the end of the day, a lot of punk bands did the same thing too. The Clash changed their sounds from earlier records and wrote the highly impressive London Calling record. The Minutemen would refocus their efforts on the future albums, which culminated with Double Nickels on the Dime. Time was ripe for change, and the band had the perfect reasons to do so, as mentioned earlier. But one of the points I have heard raised regarding this record is that American Idiot is punk rock's first concept record ever made. However, this is not entirely true. Husker Du have this slot with their album Zen Arcade, and it was released a full 20 years earlier. Either way though, this was a huge step for the punk world, as even though it wasn't the first, it was the first that achieved mainstream success, and probably serves as a gateway album for many to discover this genre of music. And I think that this is a great entry point, especially if this is the case for you. As for those who say Green Day sold out for this album, may I remind you that the punk scene had become stale and repetitive over the past decade of cookie-cutter generic releases. Similar in vein, of course, and the origins of punk is to go against the grain. So with this album's release, it became a self-fulfilling prophecy that has come to fruition. Age makes fools of us all, but this album stands tall as a timeless effort and a great record to revisit if you haven't played it in some time, so please do so. Now, if only they left this concept as a one-and-done situation, huh? If you've enjoyed this content, make sure to smash that like button, subscribe to us, and stay notified for future music-related content because it keeps our manager happy at the end of the day. We are also on Discord, Instagram, Facebook, and all those other social platforms if you want to check us out. As always, people, you have a great day and stay spicy. Fuck me, 25 fucking minutes. This is going to be a 40-minute video with the edits. Alright, let's fucking do this thing.